Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cup of Three. My name is Ashley. I'm joined, as always, by my friend and co-host Mabel, and fiance and co-host Agu. Welcome back, guys, after our little break.
It's been a long time.
I know, such a long time.
A whole week. Oh, sorry, a whole 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we found out that last week there was an episode where, like, Miles and Karen, Amani, Woody, Jamie and Beth, and maybe another couple, I can't remember, just kind of commented on how the season 12 has gone so far and what they think about it. We haven't caught that episode yet, but if we do, we'll try to include like a brief review of that in a future episode. But I guess let us know if that was worth watching or if you feel like they had good thoughts on it. I'm kind of curious how that went, but sometimes I feel like those formats get a little bit drawn out, like when they did the like preseason kickoff episodes with the different folks from E! News and stuff, where they're like, what do you think about this pairing? And I'm like, I don't know who these people are. I don't care.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
I think the E! News one was just a setup of, like, they showed them a very specific clip, and it was like a clip that was edited for you to feel a certain way, and then they would ask them, and of course everyone on the panel would say the thing that the clip wanted you to say. But that being said, I feel like last season we probably were the ones who were like, hey, let's bring some of the couples that've been through this before so they could bring in their insight. Actually, I think I remember saying that. So for me to be, I have to watch it, because that would be very hypocritical for me to like recommend it last season and then they do it and then I'm like, I was lying. So I think we'll check it out and hopefully it's good.
I think what I really want to see is like the conversations that we'll never be able to see, which is actual couples who have been on the show in the past and season 12 couples just talking about the experience of being on the show candidly, like without all of the the editing and filtering of what they're allowed to say and not allowed to say. Because I just want to know, like, what is it actually like? What are the things that we don't really know about and understand as viewers, because this is a very produced story? I think that would be fascinating, but there's no way we're ever going to know that.
Open Q&A with all the couples.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Live streamed.
It's like, who was it? Was it Brett from Brett and Olivia who had to Ask Me Anything? Like, that was actually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll watch it, audience, and we'll see, listeners, Cup of 3 years, and we'll check it out. We'll see.
And let us know what you think, too, if you saw it.
Yeah. So we'll have to check that out.
Do you guys want to get into this Decision Day episode now?
Without further ado, what we have been waiting for this whole time is, are these couples going to stay together or decide to stay together on Decision Day? So we still don't know if everyone has stayed together until the reunion episode and beyond, but for now, we do know where everyone stands. So we started with Ryan and Clara, and
For sure.
They for sure want to stay together. So I guess, were either of you surprised by their answers?
Ryan's literal answer, like at least edited answer, for sure I want to, like, wait, is that a for sure?
150% want to stay.
Right.
I was like, he literally added up his calculations and was like, I got a 150. Yeah, okay.
I can make this work. All right, cool.
I mean, definitely not surprised by Clara's answer. She was 100% yes all the time. She never wavered.
She also kind of walked back the intimacy problem that she had brought up several times throughout the season. So she was saying, like, he had to explain it to me several times, which was an interesting way to phrase that how he felt about being a little bit slower towards intimacy and how he feels about it. And she was like, is this the hill I'm willing to die on if we're going to be together for, the next 50 years? And it's probably no. So I'm going to kind of let it just kind of take my hand off the wheel and let it be what it is. And so that's an interesting evolution. I feel like she may have arrived at that conclusion a lot earlier than we saw, just based on how they've been telling the story around that. I don't know.
Yeah. I get it. This is one of those things that I don't know. I feel like I might have felt differently if I was in her situation, but the logic that she has tracks. Like, if you are looking at this as a forever thing, the first 2 months doesn't necessarily, decide how you're, like she said, 50 years of them being married. So, I can respect that. I think I would have wanted to like push back a little bit more if I was in her shoe and be like why is this the case if you are married? And like she said, it's a decision to be in love with someone, and so if they already have that, and I think that's what she was trying to say in her moments where she was angry, like, we're in this together, why is this the thing? But Ryan seems very sure of his decision, and it's like it's either that or she breaks up with him, and I think she likes him too much to end it. So
for sure. Oh dang, I said it, probably realized it.
Yep, that's just
got
the
us.
thing now. We can't stop. We've been in sex.
Ryan. Yeah.
So do you guys think that they will still be together at the reunion?
Oh, that's a good question. Maybe it was editing, but Ryan's response didn't convince me that he sees this long term. I felt like it was things are going great, so there's no serious big reason to break up, divorce right now. We can keep riding this out and see where it goes. That's kind of the vibe I got from him.
Yeah.
And this is just me being like nitpicky a little bit, but when they were all in a conversation with everyone after everyone's decision came out, she was like, drum roll please, surprise, we're staying together. And then he said, well, she stuck with me for a little bit, and maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I was like, I don't know if marriage is a little bit.
I feel like that was his terrible attempt at a joke. Like,
Maybe.
not reading the room that, like, look, a bunch of people just got divorced today, so, like, maybe not joke about this.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah. It's so odd that, like, saying I love you is the big thing that he just...
Right?
That amazes me. I don't understand that. Like, their relationship, fine, short, but from what we've seen in other scenes, she mentioned that he's been in, like, multiple year relationships where they've never exchanged I love yous, and that's different. That's different.
And I think that's where it gets confusing to me. Most of the time when I don't know, hear people talk about like being hesitant, and maybe this is just my small world of people I've met, but usually it's like, well, it hasn't been a series of serious relationships, or it hasn't been many long relationships. It's just been kind of like dating and maybe a long relationship here and there.
Yeah.
But with Ryan, you're absolutely right. He has been in long relationships, debatably as many serious relationships. But then even he's like justifying it right now in the conversation to be like, that process is very slow for me. You're going to have to be patient. It takes me a lot of baby steps to get there. You have to chip away over a long period of time. And I'm like, to me, that kind of sounds like an excuse / justification to avoid. And it's like,
that kind of sounds like how Haley was talking about herself. Because imagine if someone like Clara was paired with like a Haley. Like, let's imagine that Married at First Sight actually gets with modern times, and like we have a lesbian couple, but like that level of commitment from Clara to see things through with someone who is really, really hesitant and slow to trust, like Haley. Like, that's really the same dynamic that we're seeing between Clara and Ryan, I think. But it's
Good
just
point.
that, like, Jake isn't a Clara.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. And, like, I think, like, I don't think the relationship is ever going to get to the point that it's, like, toxic, right? So, because he is relatively, like, he's a nice person, he's a good person. So, it's not going to get bad enough that I could see her be like, I need to leave this now.
Mm-hmm.
I just hope that it's better than this, like, 60% relationship that it seems like they have now. And like, you know, like, saying I love you is just, at the end of the day, it's words. So hopefully he's still showing that, even though he doesn't want to use those words. But yeah, they're a very interesting couple to watch. And so, to, like, the first initial question, I think they are going to stay together on decision day. I mean, on reunion. I think if he is slow to, like, this building of trust, even decision day is going to be slow for him. Like, hopefully they're intimate at that point, maybe, but even then, I don't really know. Just like you said, like, Haley and sometimes Brianna said this, but, like, being self-aware but not wanting to correct the issue is just as bad as not knowing that you have the issue. Like it seems like he understands that he is slow to say I love you. He's slow to build that trust, which is great. You know it, but, like, try to work on it. Try to fix it. Like, just knowing it isn't, that's not enough. Like, you're one third of the way there.
Exactly. And I'm sure, like, you can, think about, like, why is that? Like, is it something in your past? Is it, like, previous relationships? Is it, like, burned in the past? You don't know. But, like, and to clarify, I have plenty of friends that have waited a year, 2 years to say I love you to their partner, and completely, like normal, valid, etc. I just think that he keeps bringing it up in a way that's almost like telling her, hey, I'm not going to say it for a very long time. I'm not going to, like, be in the industry. Almost like too much to be like, I don't know. Instead of just kind of going with it, letting it be, and it'll happen when it happens. It's like he's trying to overthink it so much so that he's waiting for this magical moment to appear.
Yeah, I think overthinking summarizes his, like, big problem very well. Because I think he's just kind of getting in his own way with it a little bit. And I think that's probably one of the reasons that they paired him with Clara, is she can maybe help him be a little bit more spontaneous and a little bit more present and a little bit less just so rigidly structured. I mean, she's got a bedtime now. She's making compromises, apparently, on her side.
And she was so surprised in the first day. She's like, what? That early?
And they're evolving, but I hope that evolution happens on his side as well.
Yeah.
But maybe, I mean, they seem to be incredibly private, so it could just be that it's stuff that we're not going to see because he's only going to really talk about it openly with her when the cameras are gone. So hopefully they're good. They seem okay. I think that they will stay together, still through the reunion and everything, but we'll see.
Yeah. I guess I get why he's so private. I think it's a very smart thing. Like, if you're being serious about this, you want to you're not trying to make it a reality TV show. You're making this a real relationship. And so I get why he wants to be private. I think because of that, you then leave a lot of space for people to then try to theorize your intention. And, like, it felt like even the show was like I really love this show. I like the people on it, but it felt like they, like, were trying to make a storyline out of nothing with them. Like, just the amount of scenes that we've seen with them where they, like, cut 9 different scenes to like put together a sentence. And like, you know, the cynical way of looking at that is like, oh, they're trying to pull up drama. But the non-cynical way is like, we had nothing to work with here. We're just trying to put something together because he doesn't talk, right? So I kind of get it from that perspective. And I think that's the only issue when you're like super, super private is like this kind of happens. So like there's like a middle ground where you can like talk about your relationship, but clearly he doesn't like talking about their intimacy. Like, okay, that's fine. Just you don't necessarily have to talk about that. But yeah, I'm wishing them the best though. I think consider like we got 3 yeses out of this season. I did not see that coming, but this is technically one of their more successful seasons if you use that as a measure. So good luck. Wishing you
Good
well.
luck.
Wishing the best for Clara and Ryan.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to move over to Jacob and Haley?
Yes.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Eagle and dragon, is that what you
Eagle and dragon.
They're
Yes.
So,
I hope that comes up on reunion day where they talk about Eagle and Dragon.
I really hope so.
back? Say.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
So, not surprisingly, they decided to separate. My first impression of their meeting with the experts was Haley always tries to act like everything's fine. And we're just like, we all know it's not fine. Like, she seemed like so cheerful to be sitting down with them. They're like, hey, how's it going? She's like, I'm doing really good. How are you? And I was like, relax. Like, it's okay. You're about to get a divorce. Like,
Right.
it's okay to just be whatever you're feeling. Like, that's all right. And
Yeah.
so I guess how did you feel about all of their conversation with the experts?
I thought that her response was like, I'm so excited to be out of this mess of a situation.
Yeah.
I'm done with this dude. Let's get on. Let's move on with it. She's going to go have a divorce party like we've seen in
You
the
know she
past.
is. Oh,
Also, Jacob wore jeans. I knew it. Every time he wears a suit on the top, he wears jeans on the bottom. He is consistent with his fashion choice.
With a lot of things.
Consistent. Why are you wearing a tie? Why? What is the point of wearing a tie if you're going to have jeans at the bottom?
yeah. And like, are dress pants that much more uncomfortable than jeans? It doesn't seem like they're really that different. So maybe just go full suit.
No. Guy clothes is fine. Like, we rarely are uncomfortable. It's pretty solid.
Which is why I'm jealous of your clothes all the time.
It's nice.
We could have a whole nother tangent about that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Was there
But-
anything, though, about their comments, about the discussion that they had that surprised you?
With the experts. I don't know off the top of my head from their conversation with the experts. I do remember, like, when they were meeting with everyone afterwards outside, that they were asking Jacob what he thought he learned, and he didn't feel like he learned anything. And I felt like that was a little concerning. Like, really? I feel like they're both Haley and Jacob are blaming each other entirely for the failure of the marriage. And that really isn't going to serve them very well in their next relationship. So that was disappointing to me. I was like, what a wasted experience then.
Yeah.
So the thing I was getting with the more times we saw him this episode was, I think it feels like ultimately he's upset that Haley didn't try as much as he did. And, you know, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it feels like that is the thing that is like, so like if you feel like the other person didn't even try and you weren't in a relationship, then of course he's going to say, no, I didn't learn anything because, you know, it wasn't a relationship. And then on the Haley side, I think she just didn't want to be in this, but then she didn't want to call it off. Like, it's that like sports mentality thing where it's like, I gotta see it to the end, which I do appreciate, but you're not like being in a relationship, but you're not in a relationship. I don't see the point of that. And I think that's why because he seems salty about it, and like I think reunion episode is going to be great with him. I forget who said that like he was going to be Henry or something. It's going to be amazing, but they weren't a relationship. They had like 3 good dates, were intimate once, and they were like, ooh, don't like that, and then they were done. And like I don't like, they look so bad because they don't like each other, and that's fine. Like, I think they're 2 good people. They're just not good together, and I kind of wish they pulled a Chris and Paige and like called it earlier. Like, I think they would have looked better. They would have felt better. I just I don't. It's unfortunate, but I think they're so hardworking that they ended up making themselves just hate this experience
and miserable for no reason.
Yeah. You know how some people, when they approach dating, it's like, are they good enough for me? Which absolutely, like, please, like, that's something you should be thinking about. But then it ends there instead of like continuing that. And am I good enough for them? Right. And I think both of them approached it of like, I'm solid. I have like everything I'm doing is right. I did nothing wrong. They're the ones who, etc. Fill in the blank. And it didn't really. It's just like they each had their own, almost like like in that way it seems kind of selfish to me. Their own selfish approach of saying this person didn't blank enough for me or whatever. And actually, Ashley, to your comment earlier about Jake, it makes me think back in the beginning when he was talking about all his exes. He kept saying they were the crazy ones or they whatever. And it was always their fault they didn't work out. And it's like, dude, there's a common denominator here. Maybe look introspectively a little bit. What's going on there?
I'm
really curious what the experience is of people who have been on this show and how they suddenly are going to have people talking about them online and giving unsolicited feedback about them and how they approach relationships, how they communicate, everything. I wonder if I think if I were on the show, I would be very tempted to just look at everything and then probably have a mental breakdown and then slowly get my confidence back and be like, F the haters, I'm the best. but there might be some things in there that, like, if someone makes a comment in a particular way that just, like, kind of gets through to you, where it's like, oh, I didn't realize I do this, or like, oh, that is actually pretty true. I'm really, really curious if that happens, because that could be the way. I don't know. I think we all just like learn in very different ways, and there are lessons, and I've talked about this before, but there are lessons that you do kind of like know in the back of your mind, but sometimes you have to hear it the right way from the right person for it to land.
That's true.
And so maybe just the sheer volume of feedback that everyone on the show is going to be getting from people online, maybe it's a higher likelihood that something does kind of get through, and there is kind of a point of self-reflection in some way that does help them understand themselves better, or whatever it is,
Yeah. I definitely, I think also that was very meta, considering that we're some of the people commenting on them from the internet.
There's layers to this.
I was like, wow.
Right.
This is next
P.S.
level.
Take our advice. Just kidding.
The other people's advice, dumb, but ours,
I will be their
good.
Untrained therapist. Zero training whatsoever.
This is very meta.
Not to brag, but I've been in therapy before, so I know how
Right.
this goes.
I've had multiple marriages. I know how marriages work.
Okay, Eric.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I think so like the Haley one, I think I'm starting to realize why I was so intrigued by her story is I think she just does not want to be the bad guy. And I kind of empathize with that. Like I've seen situations in my life where, like, for example, like, a person is a really bad employee or a coworker, and like they shouldn't work in the company anymore. But instead of just firing the person, they do the whole like, oh, we'll put them on a employee review plan, and then we'll do these different meetings, and then like you're basically trying to do everything you can for them to say, I want to leave, as opposed to just for the good of that person, for the good of the company, be like, you know what, this just isn't going to work. You're an intelligent person. You're going to find something else. You're going to, like, but being that bad guy for a few moments is really, really hard, especially if you're a person who likes, you want people to be happy, and you feel like you don't want to make them down. And I think with her, it felt like she knew pretty early that this was just not going to work. And I think Jacob still kind of thought it was. So that's why I'm being a little less hard on him, because I think in his head, he thought that they could be a thing. And I think she knew, like, no, this is not going to work. And like, yeah, you're going to be the bad guy for a few seconds or a few minutes as you break it up. But think how much happier she would have been, how much happier Jacob would have been if they just called it out. Like, it just, it's so hard. And like you said, yeah, like when she's talking to experts, oh no, I'm fine, I'm totally fine. It's like, no, you're not. You're upset, and that's okay. Like, that's totally okay. You can say that, and you're not the bad person. So I really do wish her the best. I think she tried to do so much to look good, but then ended up looking kind of crappy on the show. And I think she just knows what she wants, and it's not Jacob. And that's okay.
On that note, though, I think, like, so there was a show I used to really like on VH1 called Tough Love, and it was like a coaching show for people who weren't like having that much success dating. And so it was a bunch of singles and this guy dating coach.
Unmatchables? Is this Unmatchables?
The older version of VH1, yes. So Tough Love was a big show I liked because it was about like coaching, and it's like, it wasn't, all right, let's only learn about relationships when we're in relationships, but it's like, let's learn about ourselves and be prepared for relationships, not only when we're with one person who obviously like that's going to be biased, influenced by that one experience, that one person. And there was also this other video, Ashley and I, we've talked about in the past, but this channel I really like, that we both really like on YouTube, called The Financial Diet. And one time they had this divorce lawyer on it talking about his experience, what he finds in relationships, etc. And one thing he mentioned, I think it was also in his book, saying, why not ask your partner what they prefer when they're arguing? Like, what kind of coping do they need? Are they the kind of person who needs to walk away, take their moment to think about it and come back? Are they the person that can't go to bed angry? We have to talk about it right now until 3 o'clock in the morning. Have that conversation before you get into the argument, so you know when you're not heated how to handle it. And I think, like, we see right now in Married at First Sight, they're trying to learn how to be married and learn how to be in a relationship, or how to be a stronger partner in this experience while they're with the other person. But I also think there's a lot of value in coaching while you're not always in the relationship, but just like, hey, these are some things to keep in mind, self-improvement, development, approach, that kind of thing. So whether it's relationships, whether it's learning about job, career stuff, like, I really like those programs that really teach people how to, like, be successful in their careers, not necessarily while they're working,
Yeah.
Right.
I'm totally snapping here. Like, that's, like, that's spot on. That's definitely, it's like with the Army training, or like the SEAL training, where they make them do the same stuff over and over again, so that when you have bullets flying at your head, then you're going off of instinct and you don't have to think about it because you've done this so many times. It's like part of your muscle memory. And yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, if they were like, all right, when we fight, this is what we do to resolve the fight. And yeah, that totally makes sense. Plus, they're in like a crazy experiment. So of course it's gonna
Right.
like bring out all the like weird parts of you that you didn't, that you don't have to use. All these weird muscles that you're like, oh yeah, I had this muscle. I forgot about it. It never gets worked out. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that also lends itself to the idea of each person in the partnership being a whole person before they come together.
Exactly.
And not expecting the other person to fill in their gaps so that they can be whole, like, once they're a unit. It's like you're not like 1 + 1 = 1. Like, you're just 1 + 1. Like, you're kind of bonded together now. And, like, you being, like, I just think self-development and kind of working on yourself in whatever ways that you find meaningful as just a daily practice is one of the biggest things that can contribute to you showing up in a relationship as your best self, which is going to kind of, I think, inevitably kind of curb some arguments. It's going to curb some issues that might come up because you kind of have your stuff taken care of first, and you're showing up for the relationship, not for what it gives you in those like little ways that you haven't worked on yet.
That's why we loved Imani and Woody. They're great.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, they were fully developed people beforehand.
And emotionally mature and able
Exactly.
to talk things out, and like their ability to have a conversation and not let it be about their emotions, but about looking at the common problem together was amazing. Like they saved like an extra 10 hours of discussion because they didn't get caught up in like, well, I can't believe you don't think I'm what I, like, it's like, no, what are we actually talking about? And they could do that so well. It was amazing.
They
Need their own show on like
Yeah, they do need their own show.
Yes.
Yeah. I was gonna say like they're also having sex and Haley and Jacob weren't. So like
That does help.
that's a factor.
It helps.
I'm just
It definitely
saying.
helps.
Like one is like a kind of like a really weird acquaintance, and the other is like a relationship. But I totally get what you mean. Like they were fully fledged people.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Okay.
get it.
So, Paige and Chris,
Oh god.
who needed 6 hours of filming to get their, basically 6 hours of what was covered on that episode of them. They were leaving the parking lot. They came back. They left again. They came back. We had a lot of things happen with them.
True.
Just want to give a shout out to the film crew.
Yes.
Just everyone on the back end. We were kind of joking around about this before we started recording, but I imagine they left home, like, okay, honey, I'll be back after today, and then they go into work and their shift goes over by 6 hours because Chris and Paige are having multiple breakdowns, and it's just I'm just picturing the son at b-ball, or at their soccer practice, no, my dad is coming, don't wait, don't stop the practice, he'll come.
He's a best dad. He works for a TV show, and everyone's like, okay, he's not coming.
And then it's just him in the soccer field waiting for his dad who never comes, and he's just like, Dad, where are you? Wow, that got dark, but that's kind of what I saw. That's what I was picturing. It was them just we saw them so much this season. We went from never seeing them to Paige is like, oh, I want to talk to this person, this specific producer, because clearly that's her person.
Yeah.
And they're talking it out, and even when they were coming back to talk to the experts, and then you could see one of the producers in the back trying to scoff down some food before recording again.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's hilarious.
Oh, I didn't notice.
You poor people, y'all are the real MVP. Because
They better get paid real well.
I feel like I've been you know what? I'm over this. Chris, Paige, I don't care. I'm going to see my wife and kids.
Okay. I have a life outside of this.
Did it surprise you guys that I completely blanked on her name?
Paige.
What? Paige. Oh my god. I was just looking at you, Mabel, and I was like, Mabel, nope, that's not right. What's her name again? Mabel. Nope, that's not right. Paige. Sorry.
This is me every day of my life forgetting names. Now you know.
It's rubbing off on me. Oh no.
This is what it feels like.
Did it surprise you that Paige wasn't completely sure about her decision?
It really shouldn't, but I was still so frustrated. This is the conversation I have with my girlfriends. That's like, what are you doing? Stop going back to this dude. I know we've all made the mistake. Like, I am also a culprit of that. But, like, come on. You see that he is the vision the imagery I had in my head was that she's being like dragged around like a doll in Toy Story, like that little kid kind of like, you know.
No. Yeah.
And that's like what I saw, because Paige, I'm just like, what are you doing? He is playing you. He is leading you on. He's just trying to find words that keep you around like a little bit longer. Shout out to Dr. Viviana, though. I was like, yes, please speak the truth right now, because she was getting so irritated. She's like, wait a second. No. I just got to speak up. Thank you, Dr. Viviana.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many emotions. I just don't know how to feel. Like, first, the fact that you would even, so directed towards Chris, the fact that you would even bring up the miscarriage, like, this is, I'm assuming, recent. And, like, to try to use that as, like, I don't even like the thought process of, oh, the thing that was between us is now dead. Like, I don't even like that conversation. I don't want to hear it. That is disgusting. It's fucking, like, a baby just died. And we're out here acting like, oh, you know, I like to, it's like, just the way they were equating that to, like, you know, I work nights, you work days. It's hard for us to be in a relationship. Oh, now I work days. We can hang out. Like, no, this is a baby.
It's serious.
This is a serious thing. And to, like, try to use that, and I'm going to try to be sympathetic and say maybe he is just in a dark place right now, because that's a big thing to handle. But you don't need to mention that on national television. And, like, I did not like that at all. It felt gross to me. And you could tell, like, the experts didn't really know how to react to it. Like, just, like, what do you say in that situation? And her, like, going out to him to, like, try to console him, it annoyed me too. I'm with him about it. I was like, what are you doing? But then also, when someone confesses something like this, you feel bad for them. So, like, I get why she, like, went back, and it's just don't, like, just don't,
you know, definitely he's going through a lot right now. She's going through a lot. Like, I'm talking about Mercedes. I mean, this is very serious, and that's great that Paige wanted to be supportive in that moment, but there's a difference between supportive and wanting to get back together in a relationship. Like,
exactly. And I think Paige's maybe learning opportunity from this experience is how important boundaries are. Where if she were at a place where she had clear boundaries with him, where she was explicit with him where they stood and what was okay with her and what wasn't, that, like, I'm okay with having a conversation with you, I'm not okay with having a relationship with you, whatever that looks like, then her being, like, emotionally supportive for him in this time is not going to be as much of a kind of, like, risky thing for her emotional state. Because it was obviously after that, you know, after he walks out and he needs a moment in the car and she's there supporting him, and then he has this epiphany, like, she's here being there for me, and she's, you know, like, she's a ride or die, and she's the diamond, and she's everything, and she's like, you know, these are the first time I've heard him say stuff like this. Like, he was very honest, and I've never, you know, I haven't heard these words come out of his mouth before, and so now she's confused, and it's like, I agree. I don't think the miscarriage should have been brought up in the first place. Like, that is a insanely private and tragic thing that Mercedes is going through. Like, I understand Chris is a part of it, but, like, Mercedes is having a very traumatic experience and needs support in whatever way she wants. We don't need this to be a talking point on a reality TV show. But my feeling was, it was like Chris now doesn't have a strong reason that Mercedes would want to be with him, and Paige is about to go. So who's his best option now? And how does he manipulate her, whether he knows that's what he's doing or not, to get her back to want to still try to work things out with him? And that's really hard. That's really nefarious. And I really don't know if he fully understands what he is doing, but based on his actions, anytime he is about to lose one of the two women he thinks he might, need to be with, then he finds some way to loop them back in. And I'm very glad they separated. I think that is absolutely the best thing for them. I really hope they don't have contact after this, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like right after this, they probably started getting back in contact with each other, right?
I mean, I'm not totally convinced they had zero contact before this, but I definitely don't think they're going to have zero contact after.
Yeah. When you mentioned, like, Dr. Viviana, I think I also, like, when she said that, I was like, I fully agree with you. I'm totally with you, and, like, I'm happy you're saying something. But it was interesting seeing him go straight defensive again. Like, I'm starting to realize that's kind of his go-to. Like, he's a fighter, and, like, is a fighter looking for a war. And the moment he has someone who's like, this can be my bad guy, he, like, activates it. And I have people in my life who are like that sometimes, and it can be very frustrating sometimes because they're passionate people, which is great. But if you're, like, constantly looking for a bad guy in your life, you're going to find them. And most of the time, they're not actually, like, Dr. Viviana in that scene was doing that for him too. Like, she was saying that, like, hey, this is a bad relationship for you too, not just for Paige. But you can just see he was like, I don't care what anyone says, I don't care what any of your opinions are. And I love that he has that point, but you gotta, like, reel it in a little bit. And it was very interesting seeing the way Pastor Cow spoke with him. Like, Pastor Cow, it felt like, from what I was seeing, that, like, he was like, hey, if they want to still make this work, let them figure it out. It kind of felt like in that scene. And, like, there was one scene where he's like, hey, I can only be as angry at Chris as Paige is angry at him. So if Paige isn't furious and think that this is not okay, I don't want to feel that way. And then you could tell, like, Dr. Pepper and Dr. Viviana felt the other way of, like, what we all feel like that Chris is just trying to grab her back, and that this feels off and all that stuff. But the way that Pastor Cow was able to talk to him, he, like, listened, and you could tell, like, I think it would be nice for him to have, like, a therapist, but not, like, an older black male therapist. Like, it felt like every time he talked with Pastor Cow, he was able to, like, look at him as, like, you are what I want to be, basically. Pastor Cow's a successful black man with his family. Like, I kind of get the feeling that, like, Chris was like, you are what I want to be, you're, like, my target, and then, like, kind of listens to that a little bit more. And I really hope he gets that, because I think there is good there. I just think he needs a lot of work on himself. Because, yeah, like you said, it's just, like, of course, while she was consoling him, that's when the light bulb flips on his head, and he's like, oh, she's actually a good woman. And, like, yes, that's true. She's always been a good person. That doesn't necessarily mean that she's your person. Like, yeah. There are other good people in the world. like, they should not be together. And I'm worried that, like, they are going to be at some point, just because, like, that is an passionate thing. Like, he was basically living out, like, a rom-com, like, not rom-com, like, Nicholas Sparks thing, where they're, like, running in the rain, and, like, I loved you all along, and, like, I get why she was gonna, like, you know, kind of lean into that. So,
but also, like, just healthy relationships aren't like that. You shouldn't have to be chasing your partner out into the parking lot where they're having, multiple breaks from this scheduled thing, and your emotions are all over the place. Like, I think it's easy to mistake all of that for passion or for love or for, like, there's something here, there's a spark. And it's like, clearly they do have some type of connection. Like, one of the experts was mentioning that, like, despite all of this stuff, they do seem to still have, like, the way Paige is looking at Chris at certain points. It's like, yeah, she obviously still, she doesn't hate him. Like, she's frustrated, but she's not, like, screw this man, like, completely. There's still some part of her that's like, maybe he's the guy. But, like, when you look at the big picture, it's like, their relationship has been nothing but tumultuous. So what good is there? Has any good been proven to you? Because all the evidence you have right now is that you're just going to get more of the same. Like, I'm not here for the promises. I'm not here for the things are going to get better and change now that, like, it was the filming that was the part that made this hard. It's like, no. Like, look at it for what it is. And I don't know if they could ever do that completely.
Well, unfortunately, I think a lot of those relationships exist where one person just really wants to be in a relationship so bad that they're willing to let the other person treat them like crap a little bit for the sake of being in a relationship and not being in a relationship. And Chris is that person that not the most, not the healthiest partner, at least for her right now, and also isn't walking away from it, so kind of like letting her stick around if she's willing. So I don't know, it's just
I've got a question for you guys. Do you think that, clearly Paige is a ride or die, very devout, do you think she was devout to Chris or the institution of marriage? Like, do you think she was willing to fight so hard for this because they were married, or do you think it was, like, Chris himself was the cause? I know this is a deep question.
I think it's a little bit of both. So we kind of joke about this with the guys, thinking that the girl's attractive and kind of sticking around. I think there's a little bit there for Paige. I definitely think her main, commitment is marriage, because she doesn't want to get divorced. She wants to see a successful, long marriage with someone to grow old and also have faith in, embedded in the relationship. So I definitely think that's her first commitment, but I don't think that she would have that with anybody that they would have paired her with. I think that because she's already attracted to Chris, she's, already seeing positive qualities, like he is successful, he is driven, he is at least to an extent a man of God. So she's like, all right, he checks those boxes, and I'm committed to the sanctity of marriage, and so I'm 100% committed to this.
Interesting.
I think she is definitely all about the idea of marriage, and that's been, like, a big driving factor of, like, well, if this is, like, the conversation that we've had a lot with her of, like, if this is something she feels like God has kind of put in her path for her to do, she might be interpreting that as it's going to be trials and tribulations, but this, like, it'll be worth it somehow at the end. Like, somehow you'll get to a point where you'll understand why I put you through this really complicated thing. And I mean, if she believes that God put this in her path, that's great. Maybe that also means he did that to teach you some things about yourself. Maybe it wasn't about this marriage becoming successful.
Yeah.
Maybe it was other kind of lessons that you could grow from, and that's valuable too, and that's okay too. And just being married for that label and being in a bad relationship because of it is not success. And so
Right.
I think she's known all along. She said on decision day, I felt like something was off from the moment I met you, like right at the wedding. And I was like, that was your gut. Like, that was your gut telling you. That wasn't you in your head. That wasn't even your friends who were saying the same things. But like, that was your gut, that there is something not quite right about this. And that remains true right now. And she has all the answers herself. She knows how she feels about it. It's just about like when she was actually ready to act on that and move forward with that as her truth. And
Makes
sometimes
sense.
I don't know how to end these points. I just am like, yeah, right. Like,
And maybe, like you said, that could be the lesson. I mean, I've gone through those lessons too of I had something that was kind of talking to me in the beginning, and then I decided not to listen to it, and at the end I was like, oh, you know what? I should have just listened to my gut.
Yeah.
but that's scary because sometimes it's saying things that you don't want to hear, or mean that like you're not gonna get something that you think you want or want for some reasons and not others, and it's really hard to actually act on those things sometimes.
Especially when the other person is like confessing their dying love and like very emotional and very open, and like that's a lot of
Right.
emotion to take in. It's a lot.
But I'm also like on the Dr. Viviana train for that one. I don't think that he I think he thinks that he is, fully on this emotional love train with her, but I also don't think that's very real. I think like that's him being afraid of being alone and or in his eyes being a failure. So I don't know. I think that's a way of him kind of pulling her in a little bit, if you can.
Yeah.
I didn't fully buy it.
Part of me kind of I just feel bad about Paige, because I think like after something like this, you either like there's like two ways of handling this, where the first way is like you just go like all people are like every other relationship you're in, you're like thinking they're like Chris, and you're like you can't believe them, you can't trust what they're saying because it could be that person could be trying to manipulate you, which is then like we've kind of seen that in other couples in this TV series, that like that's not good, like that's really hard. But like after going through something like this, of course you could go that way, or the other way being that like then she just doesn't go for relationships anymore because of how awful this one was. And I don't want any of those to happen to her. Like I think in terms of like the earlier points you said about being a complete person, I think Paige is incredibly emotionally intelligent. Like even the way that like when Chris goes all attack mode and she like calms the room down and like stops him, like she is saving this guy's bacon on a daily basis, and is like she is super smart and super, like I said, emotionally mature, and like that is a really, really good person. And I feel like she clearly wants to be in a relationship, and I think she deserves that, and I want her to find it. But after something like this, that's just like there's going to be scar tissue there, and I don't know, like it's not her fault, but it's going to be there, and it's just so unfortunate. Like I wish she didn't have to go through this. I really did. Because hopefully she'll find her right person, and like if she does like 1/3 of what she did to try to make it work with Chris was like an actual healthy relationship, she's gonna be fine. She's gonna be fine. It's just you got to find the like right person to be ride or die with. Don't be ride or die with freaking Chris.
Exactly.
You know. So hopefully.
And that's what's dangerous about someone like Paige, who is such a ride or die person. She is more willing to be ride or die with someone who may not be the right person. And you have to protect yourself. You have to know your boundaries and abide by them so that you don't end up in an unhealthy relationship with someone who you shouldn't be ride or die with.
And someone who wants to be ride or die for her.
True.
Yeah.
Like, let's maybe think about, like, she's doing all of this she did all this emotional labor to manage Chris and his feelings while he's going through, you know, some different complicated life events that she didn't necessarily have to show up for him with, but he didn't reciprocate at all. And like, imagine how different a relationship would look if it's Paige with someone who is putting in as much work as she is, and they're just as concerned with how is her emotional state, how is she doing, like, does she have what she needs, what are her goals, what, like, and like admiring her just as much as she, despite everything, admires him still. Just so wild.
Yeah.
But I hope she finds that, you know.
What was that couple? Was it Keith and like
And
everyone
Iris?
called her
Christine?
Keith
or
and
Iris?
Christine?
Oh, Keith and Christine.
Christine. Yeah, not Iris. So I think it's Christine.
Okay.
But I remember that season thinking that like Christine is really in this, and Keith, I was a little like not sure about him, but you could tell that he was like in this though. Like he still needed to grow in some areas, but he was like, he wanted to make this work. I kind of wish she had someone, Paige had someone like that, where it's just like, even if they're not, well, I want her to be with someone who's successful and whatnot, but if not that, like at least somebody who's in this, to like, who like actually wants to make this work. And like that's the bare minimum, I feel like you just gotta be trying. You just gotta try. And it just felt like Chris wouldn't until the thing was almost over, and then that's when he remembers, no, I actually do care, I'm gonna try. And it's like, do this from the beginning, and then you don't have to like in soccer there are like some defenders who like do slide tackles all the time, last minute slide tackles. And I remember like reading this, like one coach say like those are actually not the best defenders. Like the best defenders stop the ball before it even gets to that point. Like they, like you don't have to do last minute save if you already caught it 5 minutes ago and you passed it to your teammate. And like it just felt like Chris was constantly doing last minute saves because he would wait until the last moment. And it's so difficult.
Spot on. I mean, anything else on them? I feel like from the preview we saw that the reunion is going to feature them pretty heavily. So
I did want to ask too. So the experts here push them basically to not stay together, right? I didn't know how to interpret that. Part of me was like, well, should you let them go on their journey, whatever that may be? Or how much should you intervene in a relationship like that and make sure that they don't hurt themselves? I don't know. I'm also glad they didn't stay together because I don't think they're a healthy relationship. But like we were already even talking about, they probably will just go back to each other to do what they really wanted to do anyway. So like, what's your opinion on like intervening like that?
Oh, that's a great question. I think they were right to intervene in this one. Most of the time I would be like, let them handle it. And it's part of the reason why I don't like get involved in like when couples are fighting, it's like, you guys are doing this, you guys will handle it. Like, I'm not going to get involved. I'll listen, but I'm not going to pick sides or anything like that. But this one was so tumultuous that you kind of had to step in. Like, it felt like if they let that stay together, and they're probably going, like you said, they're probably going to get back together, but if they didn't make it clear that, like, this is a bad thing, and you just kind of let them think that this is normal, that's even worse. Like, you kind of need them to know, like, this is shitty. If you guys continue to stay in it, cool, but this is not how relationships are supposed to go. So 9 times out of 10, I'd say don't step in, but with this one, I'm happy that they did.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of, like, power in the kind of dynamic that the experts have with them, particularly with Paige, because she keeps saying we were matched for a reason. And it's like, well, you're sitting in front of the 3 people who were really involved in that decision.
Yeah.
So I think it would be really important for her to hear from them explicitly that at the time that we matched you, we felt like this would be a good relationship. Seeing you 2 together and how the season has gone by, we absolutely do not feel that way anymore. Like, this is not a healthy relationship. I think that is a super important thing for them to communicate to her, you know? But I think there is a limit to how much we are able to really intervene in other people's relationships in general. I think because you can't control what someone's going to do. You can't, like, there's no way that they could make them not be together or make them be together. Like, they're independent people. They are going to make their own decisions. I think it stops at just being honest and respectful about how you feel about, like, what you're seeing, what your concerns are, and saying that, you know, they're there if they have questions or need anything. But, like, that's the most you can do is just say, like, I'm really concerned about you and this is why, and I just wanted to tell you that. And not expect anything from it, but just so they have that information. For me, that's kind of, like, as far as you can go with it. But what do you think?
I think that's definitely fair. I think both of you saying, you know, hey, just to put it out there, not telling you what to do. I think that's a good approach because that's, like, not playing full bystander to, you know, something you know is not the best, but it's also not controlling. And as an older sibling, I sometimes get personally invested in, like, whatever my younger sibling may be doing. And that worries me because, like, I don't want them to have to go through pain, have to go through suffering. Like, I don't want them to have to experience all that negativity. I'd just rather them have to, be able to figure it out the easy path. And I kind of was seeing myself a little bit in that conversation amongst the 5 of them because I know I would have a tough time with that. I would have a tough time, like, even when Pastor Cal was saying, okay, so you're deciding to stay together for now. Like, that would pain me a little bit if that were my little sibling because I don't want them to have to experience any further negative experience that they have to. But, you know, I also realize that that's not my life and I have to let them live their own experiences and learn. And that's unfortunately going to be them experiencing heartache. And I definitely agree, though. Like, there's danger in not saying anything at all and being a complete, you know, all right, I'm going to let you do what you want to do and whatever you decide. Like, I think that's because I personally get frustrated when people tell me, oh, I knew, or like, yeah, I knew that was a bad situation. And I'm like, then why didn't you tell me? Like,
yeah, that's kind of, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
So. I think that depends on, like, the closeness of the relationship too, because I've had experiences before with that with family where, like, they kind of hinted at, like, not liking a relationship that I was in. This was the past. This is not a you thing ago. I mean, but
they should be great. They should be happy.
They're like, this guy really
and grateful. Okay,
but, like, I don't think they felt comfortable being explicitly like, hey, this doesn't seem like you're the happiest, or you don't seem like you're, like, really doing as great as we know that you could be, and like, are you good? But it was like literally a moment where a family member pulled me aside at like a family dinner in private, and they literally just asked me, "Are you happy?" And I was like so taken aback by that. I was like, what are you actually like, what do you mean by that? That's such a loaded question.
Right.
Like, I don't even know how to begin to answer that. So just like, yeah, I'm fine, and like cut it short. And then like a year later I was like, oh, oh, I see now what you saw then.
I get
but,
it.
I was not capable of seeing it then. And like I think there's just such a big difference between what a relationship might look like from the outside and a perspective on it versus being in it. It is just different planes of existence. And like at that time when I was in that like not so great relationship, if someone would have just said, hey, like your relationship is not so great for like these 15 reasons and like you should probably consider ending it, I would have been like, fuck you, like it's fine, I'm fine, like we're not talking anymore, you know. And like now I would agree with them. But I just
exactly, like that's the other point, like what's the response to that? And as a younger sibling, also having like, and also being an older sibling, like I realized that rebellious nature, like that's a thing. And so if I say something, or if, you know, in this case the experts say something to Chris, for example, and he is super defensive, that's gonna make him want to be with Paige even more, because he's like, I don't need you to tell me anything, I know, and we're da 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 da. And it's like, wait, so are you making it worse by saying something? So I have a funny story on this. I won't get into details because it is kind of gruesome, but I was cutting an apple one day, and my dad was sitting at the table. Like I was in the kitchen, he was at the dining table, right, like not very far. And he's like reading his newspaper, like, you know, traditional dad, leg, you know, on his like knee and reading the newspaper open. And he looks at me, he's like, "Is that how you want to cut the apple?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's fine. What are you talking about?" And I have, you know, I'm not cutting away from you. Let me just put it that way. And and I go, "Ow!" And he goes, "Did you cut your thumb?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Oh no.
So that's in summary, an example of like my dad was really good at like, I can only help so much.
It's tough. No, for sure. It's so like, yeah, like I also have younger siblings, and when I see them do certain things, like there are things that they do that I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I was that outgoing when I was your age. Like there's stuff that they do that I'm like, you are killing it. But then there are other things that I'm like, ooh, you're gonna regret that. Ooh, you're gonna regret that. And then they start to regret it. I'm like, I told you so. But then you don't want to, like, how you say it, because I don't want to be preachy. Also, like you said, I was similar. Like all the stuff that my parents tried to tell me, like I would listen to some, but I'm generally going to do what I want to do. Like I appreciate it, but it's not really going to change it. And like, of course they have that too, because of course they would. So seeing my like siblings, I'm like, hey, maybe you don't want to do this. And they're like, what do you know? I'm like, okay. And then now you're dealing with an expensive bill that you could have avoided this entire time. It's just, yeah, it's so tricky. It's so tricky. I kind of think you just have to let people learn on themselves, by themselves. I think, like, just let them know that you feel one way, assume that they're not going to listen to you, because 9 times out of 10 they won't, and then hopefully they'll learn from it later on. But like, let's be honest, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're stuck in that shitty relationship. Sometimes they're, you know, like they kept on doing the dumb thing and now they're in prison, or like there's really not a way to avoid all the landmines out there, but you can just kind of try. And I feel like we're going to be helicopter parents if we ever had kiddos. Like, it's going to be like, no, don't play with the jungle gym. Like, no, just do this. Like, wrap them with bubble wrap or something. And I don't want to turn into that. So
I'm going to have to remind myself of my, like, dad's words a lot, because I even asked him about that one time. I was like, where's your limit of intervening? And he's like, as long as your life is not in imminent danger, I can let you make some, mistakes.
Yeah, that's a
'Cause-
smart way of. Yeah.
Yeah, life experience is like sometimes the best teacher, you know? Like, I think if right now we all had a list in front of us that just kind of just appeared and it's all the lessons that we need to learn to like live our lives completely fully and correctly and to the best of our abilities, we would all be like, yeah, okay, all right, that's fine, and then just keep doing whatever we're doing. Like, it's just, you have to learn it sometimes by going through it, and that's when it actually sinks in. I think that's
But on that note, if
human.
anyone wants to write that book and share it, like, that'd be great.
all the things to know to be have a decent life, I guess.
All the
I
life
guarantee
lessons you should know without having to learn them.
I guarantee you somebody's written that book and it's just full of like some really good stuff and then some stuff that's just dumb. Like, I think that's the problem too. Like, what works for you might not
Yeah, that's
necessarily
true.
work for other people. Ay, 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 ay. The
Oh,
Chris
gosh.
and Paige
Anyways.
show.
Right. In summary.
Coming
Enjoy
to
the
a
like.
close.
We had 3 episodes without them, and now they're back, and they, as usual, took up all the oxygen in the room. So, welcome
So-
back.
For
Good job,
6
guys.
hours. They kept everyone.
Can you imagine having
Oh,
to edit that
last
footage?
thing. Chris, like, last minute shows up at the group. And, like, what'd you guys think about that?
The man looked like Cersei from Game of Thrones when Cersei went evil. Like, there's this like all black outfit she has with like gold on the shoulder, and as soon as he walked out, I was just like, Game of Thrones character, Game of Thrones character. Like, also he loves showing his ankles. Like, he's all about
he
the
does.
like, yo, let my ankles breathe out here. You know, let the ankles breathe. But what was the question? I just focused on what he looked like.
About Chris showing up late to the get together.
I mean, you answered it. You talked about how he looked like.
Yeah. Also, I show up late to get-togethers all the time, so I can't judge him for that. But he apologized to everybody. That was interesting. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yay.
There's a bit of accountability there. I was confused, and I saw this on Reddit as well, that, like, why did he have that box? Did you see that? He had, like, a cardboard
Yeah.
box he walked up with and put it next to his chair, and then it was never addressed. So I was like, what is it, Chris? What's
The
it?
strap.
I thought they were going to be cupcakes.
Cupcakes.
Or at least a cheesecake.
Oh, we'll get to our cheesecake in a minute.
Yeah, we'll talk about the cheesecake.
Yeah. I mean, it was nice that he apologized. Like, he and Eric had a little moment where they resolved their beef, whatever. I don't know.
Eric looked so stressed when Chris walked out there. I was like, this is hilarious. He's like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to fight. I'm not ready. I should have done some push-ups beforehand. Fudge. Like, you could just, he was on edge.
And Vincent looked nervous. He's like, oh.
Meanwhile, Jake is just like, are we gonna eat yet? Like, what are we still doing here? I just love how like uninterested he is in there.
Yeah.
Favorite
He doesn't
character
seem
this season.
to care at all. Favorite
I mean,
character.
favorite person. My bad.
real
I know you're real people. Has to be Jake. Like, he just, like, I am. A lot of me is kind of him. Like, I see a lot of my personality there. Not the 80s stuff, but like, he could tell he's like he's like calculating everything. He's like, is it worth it for me to get in this conversation? No. I appreciate it.
What did you think of him showing up late and the whole Chris dynamic?
I mean,
Mabel?
I thought, like, sure, he did. He apologized. He tried to make amends. It also would have been fine if he never showed up. Like, I was indifferent about him
Yeah.
being there. I mean, but he tried, and it maybe was one last time to see everybody before they go their separate ways. So I was like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like he was trying to like show Paige that he is better now. You know?
Oh.
Yeah. Like, I got the like, I'm trying to win you back, and you know, I'm sure she wasn't happy that he got into that yelling match with Eric. So he's like trying to show, hey, I'm learning, I'm getting better. That's what I got.
Did
from
she
that
know that
scene.
he was going to be there? I thought she made a comment.
It felt like she did, right?
I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't know.
It does feel a little bit like when he consistently shows up late, it allows him to control the narrative quite a lot versus if he's there because he gets to make an entrance. It gets to be this whole like next chapter in the conversation that like Chris has arrived, so now we're going to talk about Chris's thing. Versus if he was there from the start, then it's just the same as if Vincent were suddenly to be like, I have an apology to make, and like it's kind of less of an impact than if you waltz in with your like Cersei outfit and a mystery box.
What was in that box? What was in there?
That's the question. It was the bracelet from Jamie.
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Well, let's go over to Virginia and Eric, who decided to stay together. Did that surprise you guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
A little
Ew.
bit.
Gross.
Was it from one of them that you were surprised about? Like, because it sounds like Eric was pretty clear that he wanted to say yes. Is it you're not sure Virginia would say yes?
Yeah, that's where I was. I didn't think that she would say yes. It felt like,
Gotcha.
I don't know, maybe she was eventually convinced by him, you know, multiple times. I think there's like last episode, he was like, I'm going to say yes, and now decision day, you know. But I guess, sure, they're still together. I mean, I was surprised. I definitely thought Virginia was going to be like, I don't think so.
Yeah. He did the proposing thing. He talked about, he called her cool, that you're the coolest person I know. That's a weird thing to tell your partner. I think we all knew that they were gonna, it felt like we said they were gonna stay together for decision day. Reunion is what I want to see. That's the real test. Like you can say all these things now when those cameras are gone and you're just around her all the time and she's around her friends that you clearly don't like, then I think that's when we'll see if they're real.
That's true.
Yeah. What do you think?
I guess I'm not sure if I was surprised or not. I feel like Virginia likes him enough where it doesn't maybe I imagine if I were her and I were kind of living through that relationship, it would feel like a lot to say, okay, despite me liking this person, that we have this level of chemistry, that we do get along in these different ways, but there are these handful of, you know, things that I really don't like. I don't know if I think it would be really hard to walk away from that despite thinking that she totally should. I think she could find better for her, and I don't think he has been like super fair to her or treated her like an equal or given her the respect that I think she deserves. So I was kind of unsure where she was going to land with it, but obviously she's not ready to take that step yet, so they're gonna, you know, stay together. I just hope they don't have the perspective now that it's like, well, we made this decision and now we never have to make it again, you know, like
That's
it's just
true.
we're staying together now and that's it. And I think as even with the healthiest relationships, it always has to be on the table that each person is able to walk away, like that they're in the relationship because they want to be and they're choosing to every day.
Yeah. They're not like with a foot out the door, but they're also not like feeling trapped, like they have to stay, you know.
Right.
This is why I like cats. Cats are like, do you actually like me? I don't know. I'm gonna work to see. But with dogs, it's just like, you're the best ever. I whatever you do, let's go. And like, I appreciate that. But sometimes you need some cat energy in your life. Keep you honest. Be like, you might eat my face if I go to sleep.
Sometimes you need a paw to the face.
So this is similar to when they did this with Kate and Derek. I wish they asked her first. Because it's hard to say no after everything. Like, he went all in. Like, he went all in and clearly had planned this and not that that's bad, but I think, like you said, Mabel, like we kind of knew how he felt. Now that they had that day apart, I was kind of hoping she was able to think about the relationship and just, if she would have answered first and said yes, I'd be cool. I got no. If you want to do this, if this is good for you, then I love it. But when the other person has confessed their heart to you, pulled out the ring, like it's a public proposal. That's why I don't like public proposals. Like I like, if you're gonna do it, let the other person be able to say no. Like if it's just you two, maybe they don't want to get married. Like give them a space to say no. So that's why I think the reunion episode is where, because this felt unfair. Like who's gonna say no in that type of situation?
It would take a lot of extra guts to do that.
It would.
If you are.
What about his comment though that her number one priority is her friends right now?
I mean, I think that's true.
I mean, like, do you think his response though is legitimate, saying like your partner needs to be your number one, and like how he like, I don't know.
I think in a normal, if they got together in a more normal way where they were dating and then got engaged and then got married, and at that point if he was saying this, that like, I don't feel like I'm your number one, I think your friends are, I would be way more concerned. But I think they've just got to work to get there. Like you guys have just 8 weeks of relationship building that you've done, so like I think that's where they're going towards. But maybe that doesn't happen like with the snap of a fingers, just because you have rings on each other, rings on your fingers now.
Good point.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think that I definitely still think it's a concern that her friends are her number one priority, so much so that she's like so quick to defend them when she's talking to him and like, oh, don't ask me to change my plans, etc. But I think it is a little much of him to be like, all right, we checked the box of being married, now I need to be your number one, and you barely even know me, really. I think it is a little too fast. But I would, I guess, like to see at the reunion episode if he still feels the same way, because after, what would that make it, like 6 months? Then maybe you start to see if this is changing in the way that it should,
This, I'm totally with you. I think this feels like, so currently what we're going through with the economy feels like a tangent, but I'll bring it back around, I promise. But like certain jobs are having a difficult time getting people to work there, and certain people in the government are like, oh, it's because we have unemployment checks, we need to cut that. And other people are like, or those jobs could pay more and make it appealing. Like if you have a good job, you don't have to like force people to become, jobs that are great, that pay well. Like people will go there because it's a good job. And I think, to bring it back to them, I think that's like, I get what he's saying, I understand that, but you need to earn that. I think that's the difference, is like, it feels like he's saying you need to like cut off all the people that are in your life because I'm the most important thing. Or you guys could, like, if she enjoyed being around you all the time and you guys had a great time around each other, naturally she's going to want to hang out with you more. Like you could, it's not on her, like just because you guys are married doesn't mean that like she now has to cut that off. Like have fun experiences with her, like go places, do like, if you guys are going every Friday night, you're going to different dance classes, you're going to rock climbing, like naturally she's going to want to hang out with you, as opposed to I'm staying at home but you're going to do things, how dare you. Like she enjoys going out, she enjoys this. If you don't want to be around them, which I get it, sometimes they're just not your type of people, I get that. Have something else, have an alternative. And it feels like he wants her to bend and change without him doing it. And I think that's the thing where it's like, That's the thing that I find frustrating. So that job analogy, don't get mad because no one wants to work for you when you're paying $7 an hour. Change it to $12 an hour, you're going to have $15 an hour. You're going to have plenty of people coming out there to work. Like, they're not bad for not wanting to work for very low wages. Like, that doesn't make them a bad person. They just don't want to work for that. The same way, if you try to offer me that type of pay, I'm not taking it. I just ain't. No. So, I think, hopefully that makes sense, but I kind of wish he would do his part.
Mm-hmm. 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 I think it's like that idea too of our instinct to want to control things to work out a certain way. You know, like the more we try to force these parameters and these really rigid rules around how something is supposed to go, the irony in that is that we actually make it harder to get the outcome that we're looking for, and it just kind of stifles absolutely everything. You know, it's like trying to build a fire and trying to have the flames show up a certain way. It's like, you just gotta make a good fire. But yeah, so just, I think Eric's natural inclination, and this is just very human, is to try to control all of the different things, and part of that is how he's kind of viewing his relationship. And to your point, Agu, if he were just to kind of take his hands off the wheel, to use that analogy yet again today, and just kind of let it be, that it might kind of grow into something he didn't expect or know that they needed, and it could be really great. And it might not, but at least you kind of let it run its course and see where it takes you, instead of trying to force something. Because, like, we don't really have any control. We really don't. If, like, this last year has been any lesson in that with the pandemic, it's like, we don't have control over anything. And accepting that and being okay with embracing change, and kind of being okay with that and just going with the flow, it takes out a lot of stress and a lot of unnecessary work and planning that doesn't work out the way I think we think it does. I don't know if that made any sense, but
yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think sometimes though it's the uncertainty that's a little bit scary, right? I mean, you don't know what's gonna happen, so you kind of gotta let it go well or let it go poorly. You hope that it goes well. But yeah,
but know that you'll be okay if it doesn't work out too.
Yeah.
And that you know now that you fully gave your full attention and your best effort to something, and if it doesn't work out, then it wasn't meant to be, and that's all right.
I think sometimes we make that fear out to be more than what it is in our own head, right? And even, like, for the folks that know that I moved out west now, like, I don't know this area. This is totally new. And I mean, it's definitely scary to go to a new place where I don't really know people, but realistically, if I talk myself through it, the worst that could happen is I don't like it, so I move again, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. It's true. The best that can happen is you find a city that you like, right? Like, the risk to reward is good, so go for it. Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have to see them as much. They seem like lovely people, but I could care less about the relationship. It's just not my tea. I just don't really care.
It's not your cup of three.
Oh, that was funny.
Don't encourage her. What is this?
Apologies to everyone for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up with Brianna and Vincent, who decided to stay together. And how did he propose to her?
Yeah, that was so cute. Cheesecake.
Cheesecake.
That was so... Sorry, Elaine.
Oh, I knew what she was doing. I was not going to partake in this stupid interaction.
Thanks a lot. Wow.
I kid. A little.
Yeah, that was super cute, though. I was thinking about that. I was like, you know what? A dessert? That's actually a great way to propose. She loves cheesecake. You just, like, gift her this whole cheesecake to herself, and Dr. Viana goes, so can we share it? She goes, no.
Go get your own cheesecake.
Right. This is my proposal cheesecake.
I thought he was going to, go on one knee, pull out the ring, and the cheesecake was surprising. Okay, I see you.
Well, it sounds like it was very thoughtful because she literally said, "You guys don't even know, like, this means more to me than a ring." Yeah. Because I think he was demonstrating yet again that he listens to her. He knew that she wanted to start riding bikes, and so he got her a bike. He's got a little thing on there for Cookie to sit in the basket so they can go around together as a family. I love how he always includes Cookie as, like, their family unit. Like, Cookie is an integral part of their relationship, and it's adorable.
That is amazing, though. Like, the best.
Yeah, every time he's, like, confessing his love for her, he, like, mentions, and I love Cookie. And it's just like, oh, okay, you guys are family.
But to remember that episode that was all about the dogs, and it was just this, like, 3-second clip of going, I don't give a shit about Bentley. Like, Paige's dog.
To give some context, that was Chris talking about Paige's dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
In surprise, they are not the best couple.
Separate ends of the spectrum here.
Right.
But it was super sweet. I was like, I think that's the best part about relationships is, like, you kind of have these big milestone things of, like, oh, like, maybe here it would be appropriate for him to, like, give her an engagement ring. But for them specifically, he knew her well enough to know that, like, that would be meaningful to her. And he did it. Yeah. And it meant a lot. And sounds like he's still giving her a ring at some point. She's like, I still want a ring, though. But in that moment, he knew, like, that's a way to show her, his care. And I don't know. I just love them so much.
Me too. I thought that was super sweet of him.
I know.
All the jokes that I was going to make, because there's a Dominican participant this show. He did you guys pretty proud. You guys are
Keep
doing all
bringing
right.
the Dominicans.
So far, you guys are 100% success rate for the Dominicans on the show. So
next season
it's in DR. We're not even in the US.
Mabel will be translating the whole season for us.
I will definitely be on the show. If you guys need any help, let me know.
Country Club?
Yes!
That's the main thing I got.
Oh my gosh, that'd be so great. If we could have like a massive... Anyway, I should probably stop. I could go on like a whole tangent, like a big party. Anyways.
Yes. Then you come in. Oyster baby.
Yes! Oh my gosh. We can get the Mama Juana out, which is like our version of... what's that called?
Marijuana?
Moonshine. It's like our version of like homemade alcohol. Mama Juana.
I thought you said marijuana.
That's what I thought too.
No, my bad.
I was like, oh, okay. No judgment.
It's that kind of party.
We pulling out all the stops. Just kidding.
So that's a drink?
Mama Juana.
Mama Juana.
Yes.
So it's a drink?
Yeah, it's like a home brewed alcohol basically.
Oh, moonshine. Okay, I gotcha.
Nice.
Or
so
marijuana.
We're not going to remember this celebration is what I'm saying.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Now we're definitely not going to get sponsored because we're just talking about Mama Buena and marijuana. It's just Disney can't sponsor us. We're not PG enough. I'm sorry, Mickey. Yeah, they were. What a great couple. Like, we got some ups and downs. I hate that I said that. Freaking Eric, you did this to me. Ups and downs. You always say it. Ugh. But they made it work. I'm really happy for them. Like, I feel like she's grown, he's grown. They're still going to be growing some more.
Yeah.
But like the thing that they have is like their chemistry is just spot on. Like it's the best. Like they're jokey but sweet, but it's a good relationship.
And it feels like they're safe, with each other. You know what I mean? Like Vincent, we sometimes saw him get defensive and a little, concerned about some stuff. Didn't always know if he could trust her, vice versa. But now they're just like, you know what? I accept you as you are. You can be safe with me. You can be vulnerable. And it just helps them so much more. I love it.
Yeah.
And when they had their moment, they're both talking about how, like, you're my best friend and I can bring anything to you, and I never had that before. And I was like, oh, this is the reason why relationships are the best. It's not like all about the love and romance. It's also about like the actual human partner that you have as you're just experiencing normal life things that, like, you don't know, like, how many times, like, I'm waiting for Agu to come out of his office and then I go talk to him and it's been like an hour, but I'm like, I have an update. Like, I have to tell you about my funny coworker or something. And, like, you know, like, that's the stuff that it sounds like they've experienced and they found in their relationship.
Yes.
And that's, like, that's a lot of the joy of it. And so it's nice to see that play out the way it did.
Right, and that's what we should all strive for in relationships. That's healthy kind.
Yeah.
That's healthy
Cheesecake.
kind.
Sorry, what, cheesecake? Cheesecake is what
Cheesecakes.
we're striving for?
Yes, cheesecake.
We
Moral
will be getting
story.
cheesecake soon.
Cheesecakes. I don't know why when you mentioned the whole, like, rushing over, I'd be like, my funny coworker, in my head, the first thing that came to me was, like, Vincent rushing in. It'd be like, look, Cookie's walking! Cookie's walking, look! Or, like, Cookie just said her first words, bark! Like, just... Oh, gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get as much screen time. I think Chris and Paige took up a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did.
But I'm glad that I'm very happy with them. Like, this is, I think this is when the show is, like, at its best, is when you have couples that are like them, where they're not perfect, no one's perfect, but they want to make this work and they're really good together, and it's good TV, feels wholesome. So yeah, is there, I guess, to kind of bring it as a season as a whole, I wanted to get your opinions on that. 3 out of 5 said they want to stay together. It was a big pandemic season. Just want to get your opinion. What did you think of the season as a whole, if you had to summarize it? I guess Mabel?
I thought they had a good mix of couples. I would have loved less drama from Chris and Paige, but hey, you had some drama moments and you also had some great relationships come out of it too. So I liked that there's that mix of different kind of people, and it was entertaining to watch because it's not like we're watching the same kind of relationship every single time. And so it leads to some good conversation. Yeah, the pandemic definitely played into it, but I feel like they did a really good job of, still moving everything along really well. So I liked it.
You liked the season overall. So, like, what would you rate it if you had to?
Ooh, what would I rate this season, like, compared to others, or, like...
Or just, like, out of 10, if you want.
I'd probably give it a strong 8.
Okay.
I liked it.
Okay. I think, I don't know. This season, for me, has felt incredibly drawn out. I feel like there were a lot of weird kind of filler episodes, not only just the matchmaking special, and then everyone from all these different entertainment, writing things give their opinion, and then the extra ones, like at the end too, it sounds like the reunion is split into 2 parts. And but true. Like, not only that, but then there were some episodes in the middle of the season I was like, why are we only talking about, like, everyone's dogs? Like, I loved it because dogs, but, like, that really didn't have a lot to do with their relationships. And so it felt like, I don't know, I wish it was condensed a little bit more to be like more like high value content in like less amount of time. But that's generally my feedback for like most of the seasons, because I think, it's just kind of the nature of it being a show like this. So I think that's my biggest thing, is the more that we do this, like at this point in the season, I'm so over it. And I don't like that because I want to still talk about interesting things, but there's kind of a certain point where not a lot of new information is really coming out. So we're just kind of seeing a lot of forced storylines, and it's a little bit less interesting.
Okay.
And that would be my thing. So I don't know, with all of that, and also just all of the BS that happened with Chris and Paige, and how little Paige was protected from this nightmare. Like, I'm like a 6 or a 7 for this season if I were to rate it, just because I think it was just unnecessarily messy, where they could have, instead of going that route, been more about like the actual relationships and actual relationship building, which is, I think, the content most of the people are watching for anyways. So what do you think, Agu?
You guys both make really good points, and I feel very lucky that I asked the question, so I get to go third, because I think they've hit the right spot with the things that they do in this show. Like, actually, the dog episode, to your point, Ashley, it was odd that they made it a whole episode, but I like that they did it, though. Like, I think that's a great thing. That, like, I hope they do it going forward, where they like show how the different people match with the dogs of their partners. And I liked the idea of them bringing people who have been on the show before to like give their opinions. I like that as well. So like, I like the elements, like the thought process. In terms of things that I did not like as much, I think the editing was a little, I think I noticed it more this season than I ever have before. And actually, like, I had 2 examples. So the first being with Jacob and Haley, where like we knew that they were off, we knew something wasn't right, and then I forget which episode, but then they like showed the scene, like they cut all the scenes where he was talking about the bracelet and how he was upset that she never wore it. And you could tell that like those scenes, I was like, oh, I recognize that scene. So you showed us that scene, but you cut out the part where he talked about the bracelet so that you could save it for this episode. And I get that from a, TV production standpoint. I get the reveal, and I get why they did that, but it kind of feels like it feels like you're playing around with us. It's like, it's very obvious when it's stuff like that. And the other scene was with with Eric and Virginia's father, where like they showed the scene to us earlier, but they cut out the part where he asked if he could propose, and then they brought that back in this Decision Day episode. And it's just like, I kind of wish they would just show us a little bit more of the raw footage and not do as much cutting. And I get, like, people get long-winded, and sometimes you need to like summarize what they said. So I'm not saying don't do any cuts at all, because of course you have to, but it was a lot this season. And some of the people I just had a hard time connecting with. Like, I had a hard time connecting with Eric. I think he's a good person. It's hard for me to feel bad for him when, like, his thing is like, my wife hangs out with her friends too much. I'm like, like, in those grand series of problems in the world, that's tiny. Like, so that's not on them. Like, you just got the people that you got. So I liked some of the things that they're doing, some of the ideas, and like, I like that they have apartments together. I know we've mentioned this before. I think that's been a good touch, where they don't live at the other person's house. They have an apartment together. Great. I like that they have the weekend where all the couples come together and go camping. Love it. Like, let's keep on doing that. I like that there's 5 couples. It's a good number. Just the editing part is a little aggressive for me. So taking all that into consideration, I'd say I'm kind of like a 7 out of 10. Not as good as I think last season was their best season. It felt like torture at points while watching it. But Eric and Amani and Amelia and Bennett are like
What? What?
I don't know what I just combined all types of people.
No.
I was on a roll too. I messed up.
You can do it. You can do it.
Amani and Woody. Oh, I did it. Okay, Amani and Woody and Amelia and Bennett. I think like because we liked them as people so much that it just made the season so much easier to watch. So it's like you guys got the form right. Let's just, and it's hard, but like we got to find people who are like a little bit more likable, and I don't know how y'all do that, but like Chris sucked. I don't like him. I don't want to watch him.
Yeah.
It's just it's annoying.
And it was also just like, it was not good for him too, because now he's gonna have all of this backlash, and he it's just not great. It's not great for anybody when someone like that's on the show and they are in such an unfortunate like series of just like, I don't know, angry scenarios, right? Like he just kept lashing out. I
like
would
the
have though
villain.
liked, yeah, true. I would have liked to see more conversations between Clara and Ryan, because I feel like it was very surface level what we did get to see. And some of the issues that we saw in all the couples were like the same repeated issues all season long. For Clara and Ryan, it was the sex. For Eric and Virginia, it was the friends. For Chris and Paige, it was the, well, it was a lot. But
The sex, the friends, the dog,
right,
the
other woman,
baby,
oh my gosh, like
the other
everything,
woman,
everything.
the Mercedes.
That's right, the Mercedes from Mercedes. But it was just like, I feel they could have maybe done more of content with some of the couples, because, for example, Vincent and Brianna even mentioned like we saw less airtime towards the end with them because they were just so great. It was just like, oh, they're golden. There's not much to talk about there, but like that's also great to watch. We want to be able to see how they're engaging, what they're doing, etc. And they spent a lot of time with like Haley and Jacob revisiting the same they're not into each other conversation. It's just like we could have had a little more content, I guess, over all the couples if we spent some time on the stronger couples like Claire and Ryan and Vince and Brianna.
Yeah. And actually show us like how they're getting through those hard things.
True.
Like the thing with Claire and Ryan, it's like, okay, so now we know that you guys had this conversation, but that would have been really interesting and cool to see how they arrived at a resolution, because Claire was big mad for a while. She wasn't gonna let down about this, and she got to a point where she was like, no, this isn't the hill I'm willing to die on. So it's like a lot happened there. Like, what it'd be kind of interesting, I think, to kind of see the line of reasoning of how she arrived there.
Totally.
True.
I have a feeling that she probably never said it though, but I'm with you. I wish they did, but she seemed pretty private at the end because Ryan is private. And, yeah,
That's true.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, also let us know what you all think, listeners. I mean, was this one of your favorite seasons? What, if you could rate it, what would you say? What were some points of feedback if you could mention about this season?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got reunion part 1 next week. We get a little bit of a glimpse into that. The one thing that we noticed and we talked about briefly was like, it seems like there's even more walking out that happens with Chris and Paige.
Parking lot.
Parking lot
You,
seems to
me.
be where
Parking lot.
at this
now.
point they probably like just station one camera person in the parking lot at all times just to make sure they get the angles. They're like, just stay out there and just
Guys,
give us
just out
15.
there.
He'll be out there
Right.
soon. Just keep rolling. But then Dwight, Chris's ex-friend, I guess, shows up and is
Slash
somehow part of
pastor.
this. Yeah, which online I've seen that he's not actually a pastor at all.
Oh,
So.
interesting.
I just, was referring to him as Dwight because that's what I saw. So we'll see. It's interesting when they bring in the friends of
Yeah.
folks, because they did this with Mindy and her friend in past seasons. And I'm sure they've done it a couple other times. I'm just not remembering. And so it's always, it's different, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
It's
let's
different.
get a full outsider to come in and give us their opinion on these folks' relationships. Like, as if that's helpful.
I get why Chris would be mad though. Like, Dwight, you're his friend, and then you basically spent most of the season crapping on him, which rightly so. He's not the best, but
I mean, yeah.
like just don't come on the show. Why would you go back on the show? In my opinion, if that's what happened, Chris has every right to throw hands with the young man. Why am I saying young man? He's older than I am. That's ridiculous. Throw hands with the gentleman. It's just he threw him under the bus. It's a bit disrespectful. But yeah, we got 2 parts. What? Oh,
Maybe
the
that'll be
drama.
a good thing. Maybe we'll have more stuff to talk about, and it'll be not just the Chris and Paige show.
Do we think anyone's going to be pregnant? Are we calling
Oh,
that?
God, I hope not.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think anyone's thinking about having kids of anybody. Chris wanted to be pregnant by now, or like wanted his wife to be pregnant by now, but
This is true.
that ain't happening.
This is true.
Yeah, I don't think Clara would be on board with that. I don't think Brianna would be on board with that. And definitely not Virginia. So I would be shocked if that were
Me
the
too.
case. What do you think, Agu?
Me too.
You look pensive.
No, I'm thinking through the couples, like you said. Oh, because I'm holding my hands together. Pray hand emojis.
Or just hands.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you. But it would be if Eric and Virginia were pregnant. Drama. Drama. So much drama. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't think anyone's gonna get pregnant. What do you think, Mabel?
Oh, I hope not. Like, I don't think anyone right now wants to be pregnant from these couples, and so if they do, they would have pulled a Chris and Paige and just had unprotected sex and just hope for the best between them.
I forgot that they did that.
But yeah. Yeah. It's good that didn't happen. All right.
All right, I'm done.
Okay. Well, I think the reunion is going to be very interesting. Any general
Yes.
any general predictions for the reunion? Like my one that I've been standing by is that Jacob is going to have a lot to say. But do you have any kind of inklings of what you think might come up, just overall?
I would say, I guess I'll hop in really quickly and just say the only prediction is I think Eric and Virginia are going to be apart at this point.
Okay.
That would be my only prediction. And then, yeah, no, that's it. That's it.
I'm hoping for not pregnancy, but like something big between Vincent and Brianna, whether they, I don't know, do something with each other's families, or maybe they move in together and they have like this new space for Cookie, or I don't think they would have done international travel, but if they went to DR, like like something big like that, something
That'd be
positive
so cool.
come out of them.
Yeah, I would like to see that too.
Same.
Or maybe somebody's trying to buy a house or something big like that.
Yeah.
Making moves.
What if they get a second dog, another Cookie? And like they call it Cream. And it's like Cookie and Cream. That was a poor attempt at a joke. But yeah, that could
Really
be
good.
cute. I'll take that. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see. Well, stick around. Check back in with us and we'll all find out how it goes. I mean,
We will talk about it at some point. Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. This has been our review of Decision Day for season 12. Please reach out to us on Instagram. We are Cup of Three Podcast, or you can email us at cupoftthreepodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you're thinking, and we'll be back next week to cover the first part of the reunion.
First
I mean,
part.
we're assuming that there's just 2 parts. What if it was like a 10-part reunion?
Oh my gosh. Well, maybe they'd actually like unedit everything and just let us have it all. Like, just keep
I'm
playing.
okay with that. So we'll
Be
see
careful what
comes
you
out.
ask for.
I know.
Type of situation, right? Like, then we get the
Part
footage and we're like,
15.
we're like, this is awful. I regret this. Why did I ask for this? Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.